Hello, everyone. Well, baseball season is well underway by now, and joining me is one of the hardest workers I know, Bobby Santoro, to talk Yankees and Mets. Bobby, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. So, Yankees are off to a hot start, very nice start. Couldn't quite get the sweep against the Pirates this past weekend, but what have you seen that you like?
Well, what I'm seeing so far that I like from them is really, it's been Trent Grisham who obviously who's come alive ever since the other day when I was at the game on Thursday. I mean, me and a bunch of my friends were going and we were joking around that we should bet on him to hit a home run. Ever since we've done that, we didn't bet on him, but ever since we did that, he's been on fire. But he's been someone who's really picked it up for them. You're seeing people like Paul Goldschmidt really come together, and so far the pitching has been able to hold it together. So it's been fun to watch. I know yesterday didn't end well, but the fact that they were able to show fight and come back, it's tough, especially when you're a road team with the new rules with the ghost runner, not the new rules, I guess now, but with the ghost runner on second base to kind of win an extra inning game sometimes. So you still like to see the fight from them.
Well, I also feel great about the Mets series against the Blue Jays, where they swept them. Things seem to be gelling early on for them over the first few games of the season as well.
It does, and I mean, really, I mean, Pete Alonso has come alive ever since that Marlins series too, and it seems like it's as much as I know I'm a Yankee fan, and obviously I don't root for the Mets, but it is fun to see how the atmosphere at Citi Field, to see how Met fans really come out, and now with Juan Soto there, how they're supporting it, but they love Pete Alonso there now ever since that big postseason last year against Milwaukee. They've always loved him, but with the re-signing him and everything. So they've definitely come alive too. It's gonna be a fun summer in New York. I mean, we'll see how both teams, especially with the Braves struggling to start. The Mets have a golden opportunity to maybe even win the division. We'll see. But hey, I mean, we're looking at probably both teams in the playoffs again, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but maybe we have a fall classic here. Who knows?
I think you could be right. Now, next, torpedo bats. Some of the old school guys hate these things, but technically, there's nothing wrong with them. What's your take?
Well, I want to try one. I mean, I gotta see how this is, like personally. But I look if it's something that everyone can use and it's shown so far. I'm not a big analytics guy because I'm always I'm always the old school like heartbeat to a baseball game and stuff. But if their analytics are showing that there's no increased velocity off the bat or it doesn't help in that kind of way, yeah. If it's a torpedo bat where it has maybe more of a sweet spot, that changes things. But anyone can use it. I don't know. I mean, the jury's out on it. I just so far I don't mind it. I mean, you look back at I know steroids were illegal when they were doing it, but that was that whole chicks dig the long ball thing, back in the '90s. So this is Major League Baseball has to be loving the improved offense on it. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes moving forward. But so far, I'm okay with it right now. We'll see if there's any stats to kind of disprove it. But right now, I see no shame in someone using it if everyone can use it.
I agree. So far, so good. So, switching gears completely here, what moves do you think the Jets and Giants will do as we approach the draft?
Well, Giants, I'm thinking it depends on it depends on if Shador Sanders falls to them. I know they have Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson now. Personally, if I'm the Giants, I try to take someone like Abdul Carter if he's there, but I think the Browns are probably going to take him. So they might, if Shador Sanders falls to them, they might wind up taking him. That's three quarterbacks though, who obviously Russ is probably not going to be here long after a year, if anything. Jameis, you don't know. I mean, he's always a wild card. So they might have found their quarterback there. Personally, if I'm them, I take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, and I wait until I either trade back into the first round at the end to get someone like maybe Will Howard, or I know Jackson Dart's been flying up people's boards, who maybe the Jets could take too. But yeah, that's what I would do if I'm them. I think that they take Shooter Sanders though. And as for the Jets, it's all it's kind of all picking and matching now because you don't know. I mean, Justin Fields, look, he's been around long enough now that we know what he sort of is. But we've seen people, quarterbacks who've been picked higher in drafts or have been picked in the first round. Someone like Geno Smith who has come in and taken over has taken over as the starter and proved that he can be good in the right system. Now, this is also the Jets, so I don't know how to, kind of factor that in. But if you're them, you probably want to help your offensive line or defensive line as well to maybe try and get that going. And then if you want to take a quarterback again, like a Will Howard late in the first round or early in the second round if they trade up, that might work too. But that's kind of how I'm seeing it for them. But still a few weeks away, and it's in Green Bay this year. So I mean, I'm going to be hopefully trying to get out there. So we'll see.
It'll be here faster than we know. Bobby Santoro, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Coming up, we'll talk basketball with Geoff Magliocchetti. Stick around. The New York Knicks are not only playoff bound, but they're shaping up to finish the season with their best record in 12 years. Joining me now is Geoff Magliocchetti to lend his expertise on these final few games. Geoff, thanks so much. Great to see you.
Mike, thank you for having me on. You guys are doing terrific work.
Awesome. So first things first, Jalen Brunson returned to action on Sunday against the Suns. Obviously a cautious return. He was out for 15 games with an ankle injury, but how great was it to see him back in action?
No, it was great to see because, the Knicks are undoubtedly a better team with Brunson in this lineup. And, it's great to see him. It'll be great to see him be able to qualify potentially for the NBA awards. He believe he needs to play 4 more games and hit a certain minutes threshold to qualify for postseason awards, including the Clutch Player of the Year award, including all NBA teams and whatnot, of which he should no doubt be on should he qualify, of course, for those titles. But what stood out to me about Brunson's game yesterday, he actually mentioned it in his post-game interview. He stated that he was pleased with the way his conditioning went, and head coach Tom Thibodeau wants to leave the conditioning question and leave the comfort question in Brunson's arms. I believe he played about 34 minutes last night, which were the fewest among Knicks starters. And, it was kind of, I would describe the first half as a bit of a tepid return for Brunson. He was 1 of 3 from the field in the first half. He lost 3 turnovers. And, it took him a little while to get his land legs back. He let Mikal Bridges, he let Karl Anthony Towns take care of the scoring in the early going. But as the game went on, we began to see more signs of the Jalen Brunson that the Knicks fans have come to know and love. For example, he took a charge in the second quarter. He had a successful and one in the second minute of the third quarter that really started to flip the script in the Knicks' way. And of course, he had a three-pointer with about 144 remaining that more or less serves as a dagger to the proceedings and officially doused the Suns' comeback. So it's going to take a while for perhaps Brunson to get his land legs back a little bit. But that's kind of the beauty of what the Knicks have right now. They are more or less locked into the 3rd seed at this point. They will officially clinch it with either 1 win or a loss from the Indiana Pacers, and they cannot go any further up in the standings. They will have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, and again are very close to securing that 3 seed no matter what. So that gives Brunson and company basically 4 consequence-free opportunities to press forward, to work out the kinks a little bit. And what we saw yesterday was the Knicks potentially at full strength, because this was the first time perhaps all season the Knicks had all the regular contributors they envisioned having at the start of the year. Guys have filled in tremendously. Right now, the one injury, for example, is that of center Ariel Hukporti, who is likely not going to return this season. But this is as he was a fringe contributor as is. So this is as close to full strength as the Knicks could possibly envision themselves moving forward. There were still, some messes to work out. Phoenix kind of got back in the game a little bit. They had some trouble again in the backcourt, namely with Devin Booker, but they really cracked down on 3-point range. I believe Phoenix was 4 of 30 from 3-point range last night, and that I believe is the worst for an MSG Knicks opponent since I believe 2018. That was Chicago, I believe. Devin Booker did get 40, but at the same time, it was very encouraging to see from New York. And what we're seeing is special weapons rising to the occasion as well. OG Anunoby, for example, is averaging over 27 points over his last 10 games, during which he has scored at least 20. That is a personal best for Anunoby, and tied for the best any Knick has had this season, tied with Karl Anthony Towns. And Anunoby has, he's eternally stoic, but he's been emphatic in recent showings. He had that 360 dunk at the end of last night's game. He publicly came out before the Atlanta game on Saturday and said, I should be all defensive first team. I should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year award because his impact is not always felt, he says, in the box score. So really interested to see what sort of, if he's able to keep this up. It gives the Knicks a very unique weapon, a rare two-way star at the top of his game. Mitchell Robinson should be another unique weapon that the Knicks carry off the bench, because I believe we talked about it before, Mike. Mitchell Robinson is part of an endangered species in today's NBA, in the sense that he's still a traditional center. He's still the type of guy, he's still the 7-footer you tell to camp out under the boards, swat away any invaders, get rebounds, and press forward, take all your shots within 3 to 5 feet of the net, and shoot about 70% from the field. So I think that's a unique weapon that is not seen on everyone's NBA roster today. It's great that you have centers these days that can shoot the three, that love to put it up from deep. Look no further than the progress the Knicks have made with Karl Anthony Towns. But at the same time, this unique set of weaponry, two-way talents, traditional centers, and guys who go all out for the ball, i.e. Josh Hart, the NBA's leader in diving for loose balls, statistically proven, could make this one of the most unique playoff cases we have seen in the association in quite some time.
I also want to talk about Miles McBride, who made his return after missing 8 games with a groin injury. Obviously not the star power of Jalen Brunson, but he gives the Knicks some depth as they head into the postseason.
Miles McBride has been a reliable depth star for the Knicks. He's been their de facto sixth man most of the year. The shooting numbers are not where they were last year. He had a nice little breakout last year, and he really made a name for himself with his shooting. It's similar to what OG Anunoby is experiencing this time around, in the sense that Miles is primarily known for his defense, but his offensive breakout last year really came through in the clutch for the Knicks. We're seeing more of that this time around. He's had some on-again, off-again injuries. This groin contusion, for example, caused him to miss the last 5 games. But this is what the Knicks have. But we're seeing further Death Stars in this lineup rise up, because there was a stretch where the Knicks were missing Jalen Brunson, Miles McBride, and Cameron Payne, and we saw guys like DeLon Wright step up. We saw Tyler Kolek. Fans were begging him to come in all season long, the second-round pick out of Marquette, and he rose to the occasion pretty well. Wright did very strong. He was the prime trade deadline acquisition from the Milwaukee Bucks in the trade that sent Jericho Sims to Wisconsin. Wright had 5 starts. The Knicks were 4-1 in those games. The one loss, of course, coming to Cleveland. And he averaged, I believe, was 9 points and nearly 2 steals per game, and over 2 assists per game as well. So this is huge, what you want to see. When contributors like DeLon Wright are posting stats like that and getting DNP CDs, did not play coaches' decisions, shortly when the team is back to full strength, this is what you want to see. And Tom Thibodeau, I don't see him expanding this set. He has been very married to the 8 or 9 man set. We've already seen experienced veterans like Precious Achiuwa see their playing time decrease in the wake of Mitchell Robinson's return. Thibodeau systems typically use 2 centers, and the couple in this case appears to be Towns and Robinson, leading to Achiuwa's de facto demotion. But at the same time, there are many experienced veterans in this group, and the Knicks have a very deep team moving forward. If everyone fires on all cylinders, this team is going to be tough to beat, despite what the numbers say about their record against the top teams, which we saw this week against Cleveland.
And Jeff, very quickly, your thoughts on Carmelo Anthony, former Knick, making the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, congratulations to Carmelo Anthony. Well deserved. And this is going to create a very interesting dynamic for a conversation that has dominated Knicks fan circles for quite some time now. Should Carmelo Anthony's number 7 be retired? I've never been a full-on advocate of that. Again, the postseason, it's a tired argument, but it does ring true. The postseason success makes me reluctant to put his name next to those of champions like Clyde Frazier, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, etc. But Earl DePearl Monroe, of course, Willis Reed. How could I forget Willis Reed? But again, it's the same. But it's getting very, very hard to deny Carmelo Anthony's MVP number retirement case, to raise number 7 in the Garden, because first ballot Hall of Famer, by far one of the best scorers in NBA history. I believe to this day he still ranks 12th in all-time scoring. Olympic legend. I know that probably doesn't matter much to Knicks fans at this point, but it's getting really hard to deny that. And Anthony, for all intents and purposes, has frequently identified as a Knick throughout his career. Of course, began his career in Denver, things didn't really end well there, and there's still a bit of friction in the sense that Nikola Jokic continues to wear his number 15. The Knicks, I would have to look it up. I'm not sure. I don't believe I've seen number 7 worn since Anthony left. But at the same time, I feel like there is an inevitable sense that the number will be retired. And there is an argument, of course, to keep him out of the rafters, but at the same time, it's getting thinner and thinner by day. A first ballot Hall of Fame nomination is a big blow to such critics. Again, there's an argument against it, but at the same time, if he does go up in the rafters, and I think it's a matter of when, not if. When he does go into the rafters, people will celebrate, and rightfully so. And it's not worth complaining over if he does get that number retirement. He's one of the top scorers in Knicks history, third all time amongst the Knicks in 3-pointers, 10th in offensive boards, 7th in defensive boards. So he's accomplished a lot in a Knick uniform, and I think he does belong up there. And if postseason success was the true threshold, who knows if we would see guys like, I don't know, Patrick Ewing in there. I know Ewing made the finals, of course. But at the same time, he didn't do the one thing that's expected of all New Yorkers, to win that elusive championship. And you look on the other side with the Rangers numbers as well. Henrik Lundqvist, one of the best goaltenders of all time, unfortunately denied a Stanley Cup. Now, and Carmelo has the stats, he has the personality, and I think most importantly, he has the love of New York, because this isn't like the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's like, oh, what cap is he going to wear? I know it's very downplayed in the modern NBA, but I thought it was very telling that for the announcement, Hall of Fame imagery from Springfield frequently use his appearances in Knicks uniforms to represent Carmelo. So I think, again, while there won't be too many truly avid, there probably won't be too much of a force to put it in. But when he does go up there should not be so much resistance.
Well, Geoff, don't go anywhere. I want to talk more basketball. When we come back, we'll dive into the NCAA tournament and where it went wrong for St. John's. Stick around. Welcome back. We're still here with Geoff Magliocchetti. Geoff, March Madness certainly lived up to its name this year. My bracket was busted early on because I had St. John's winning the whole thing, believe it or not. A lot of people, especially in this area, had high hopes for St. John's, but they lost to number 10 Arkansas in the second round. Where did it go wrong for the Red Storm? Because as much as you can never predict these brackets, I really thought they would go further.
Yeah, rightfully so. This was a magic year for St. John's. And, you want to talk about the Caitlin Clark effect. Talk about the Rick Pitino effect this has had on Queens and beyond. He really did a number on this program, and it's only going to continue. But, of course, heartbreak does reign for the time being. I so desperately wanted to put St. John's into the Final Four portions, into the further portions. But at the same time, something scared me in the sense that I was very worried about betting against John Calipari. Now, I had St. John's beating Arkansas in round 2 and losing to, I believe, Texas Tech. But, this would have been a tough bracket either way for St. John's, because Florida was a top team. I had them as my national champion, and they could well clinch that tonight against Houston. Texas Tech was also dangerous. But what really sunk St. John's against Arkansas? I listened to myself about Calipari in the first round. I had Arkansas beating Kansas. But then I didn't listen to myself the second time around, came back to bite me. So what went wrong for St. John's? I think what really stood out to me about that defeat was that St. John's, their offense kind of disappeared at the end. How many times have we seen NCAA tournament games? How many times have we heard the word gritty? How many times have we heard the words ugly win? How many upsets have we seen that start off as defensive struggles? We go to the under 12 timeout, it's something like 12-8. It's something like, 14-10. And St. John's, needed that offensive push to propel them forward. And unfortunately, they didn't get it. RJ Luis's struggles from the field were well documented. It's really unfortunate that that folks kind of turned on him on social media. I even hesitate to call them St. John's fans. I know they're a lot better than that. I think it's just a prevalent tough scene for sports viewers, let's call them. I'm not gonna single out any group. Karl Anthony Towns gave him some nice encouragement in the aftermath of that. So yeah, but the fact of the matter is, Luis's struggles did not help them. Kadari Richmond spent most of that game in foul trouble. So St. John's is missing two of their stars right from the get-go, one of whom could really contribute on the offensive end. And that's what did them in against a very athletic, very lengthy Arkansas team. And that was just a recipe for disaster moving forward. But the fact of the matter is St. John's is built for long-term success. This kind of paved the path for greater things. Already Pitino and company are working in the transfer portal. They got Joseph Sinan out of Arizona State. He came in the transfer portal, and Bryce Hopkins, oft injured but very, very, very talented, coming from a conference rival in Providence. Very sorry if I messed up any of those names, by the way. But at the same time, this is a huge step forward for St. John's. They are going to lose. They're going to lose Richmond. They're going to lose Smith, I believe, as well. So this is a really good step forward in the right direction for St. John's. If they are able to use it as a foundational year, in the sense that, this was the first step to bigger and better things, because let's be honest, St. John's is ahead of schedule. Not many teams go from, not winning a tournament game for a quarter century to being a number 2 seed and being a Final Four darling in many March Madness predictions. If this can be used as a foundational year and proves to be the first chapter in a very, 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 very successful story, the heartbreak of losing to Arkansas will disappear over time.
Now, one of the highlights of the game was the matchup of the two coaches. You touched on it before. Two legendary college basketball names, John Calipari and Rick Pitino. And I might add, two Italian coaches who have ties to the area. How special was it to see those two legends face off?
New Jersey Nets legend John Calipari, you say, huh? But no, that's something we don't see much in this day and age, and because coaches and the players for that matter, they're leaving at record paces at this point with NIL and the transfer portal, and to see those two do battle one last time, if only the game was in Lexington, although that would create a major advantage for Arkansas, I feel. But at the same time, I think that we were in for a treat, and it lived up to its hype because, again, I was so worried on betting against Calipari. I too was kind of sick of the SEC dominance, even though I put two SEC teams in my Final Four. One of them I got wrong. I had Tennessee on the other side of the bracket, so oops. But I think that this is a really good step forward in the right direction for both of these programs. Arkansas, again. I looked at their credentials and I was like, really, 10 seed? What are we doing here? But again, do not bet against Calipari in March. And Pitino, what he has done, he has awakened a sleeping giant in Queens, I feel, in the sense that, people are going to want to play here. People want that New York pressure in a sense. And let's face it, certain sports are better when the New York team does well. And I'm saying that as someone who's lived in the tri-state area forever and ever, but I think there's an undeniable feel in that, because if I'm a New York Knicks recruiter, for example, I show any potential free agent the downright joyful, for lack of a better term, riots out there. I know it's not a riot. I know they're not destructive. They're just silly out there. They're crazy. I show any free agent that and say, this is for winning game 2 in the first round. Imagine what you could do. Imagine what they'll do when you help us win the Eastern Conference Finals, the NBA Finals. And Pitino can do the same thing with St. John's. Can you imagine? We've seen college towns go crazy for Final Four victories, for Elite Eight victories, for upset victories. Can you imagine what Queens could do for a major St. John's victory? Can you imagine what the Garden could do for a major St. John's victory? So if Pitino has awoken a sleeping giant in St. John's, and if he can use this as a foundational year for greater success, again, the sadness over the Arkansas loss won't fully vanish, but can be viewed as a bittersweet, perhaps even silver lining positivity over time.
And Geoff, very quickly, the final game is tonight. New Jersey is a betting state. Hypothetically or realistically, who would you put your money on, Florida or Houston?
I'm not a betting man. This is why, because I had Colorado State in my Sweet 16, and I got 2 of the final. I was done from the first game. Whose bright idea was it to have an 8-9 game as the very first game? I think it was that Louisville game. So that's why I'm not a betting man. But if I was, I'm going to be loyal. I will stick with the champion I had to start in Florida. Talk about Pitino pupils. Walter Clayton Jr. starred at Iona, and he is living up to every bit of the hype for the Gators at this point, putting up fantastic shots. I'm still in awe of what he was able to do in that game against Texas Tech. Drove the lane, saw a couple guys bearing down on him, went back, nailed the three right in their faces. So I am in awe of Walter Clayton Jr., and I am going to say the Gators make Billy Donovan, newly minted Hall of Famer and New York Knicks legend Billy Donovan, proud by picking up a win tonight. I think it'll be closer than people anticipate, but I will go with the Gators in that one.
Time will tell. Geoff Magliocchetti, thanks so much for the insight, and we will talk soon, my friend. Thanks again.
Mike, appreciate your time and insight. Keep up the great work, sir.
Thank you. That's it for this week's show. I'll see you next Monday. And remember, for all New Jersey sports and news, head over to ONNJ.com. And now some of the Kean University highlights you might have missed. In the softball team's 7-0 win on Tuesday, Nikki Luznia threw a complete Game 1 hitter with 6 strikeouts. Luznia now has 300 strikeouts in her collegiate career. Kylie Petak delivered the big blow in Game 2 after launching a 3-run home run to secure the Cougars' 9-0 victory. The women's tennis team was in action against William Patterson University and came away with a narrow 4-3 victory. Both Gigi Gutierrez and Grace Del Pino won their singles matchups that proved huge in the win. Baseball topped Jersey City in their Thursday afternoon encounter 5-2. CJ Tomalovich launched his 7th homer of the season in the 4th, a solo shot that put his team up 4-1. Kylie Petak's 2nd home run of the week helped softball split their doubleheader against Drew on Thursday. The freshman now has 4 home runs on the season and has been a huge bat in the Cougars lineup. On the latter half of Friday's doubleheader versus TCNJ, Brianna Shuley went 3 for 4 with an RBI single in the Cougars' 5-3 victory. The junior infielder is batting .363 on the season. John Chisano's walk-off single in the bottom of the 9th won Game 2 of the doubleheader against Rutgers Camden. It improves the baseball's team record to 22-5, and it was the 8th RBI for the sophomore this season. While women's lacrosse didn't come away with a win against Stockton on Sunday, Emily Schultz and Skylar Ray each tallied 2 goals. They're off to a solid goal-scoring streak in conference play. The nightcap on Saturday featured men's lacrosse going up against Stockton University in what was an emotional night for Cougar Nation as they celebrated their annual Connors game in support of autism awareness. It was icing on the cake that the Cougars defeated Stockton 15-13 as Dylan Johnson and Nick Thorne combined for 13 points. For all Kean University highlights, just head over to our website, ONNJ.com.